Hey, everybody. I hope you are doing well. My name is Dave Shrein. I am an entrepreneur, a dude who loves helping out other entrepreneurs and small business owners get unstuck from all of the silly, stupid stuff that seems to slow down growing your business online. And I'm really excited to launch this next season of DAC Talk. I took a little bit of a break, a couple months, and I met a whole bunch of fantastic people through Periscope, through Twitter, at some conferences. And y'all, I'm ready to get this thing back going. What does DAC Talk stand for? It stands for Dave and Community of Entrepreneurs Talk. And so today, I'm really excited because I have one of my new friends who we met over Periscope, Bethany, Jett, and we're going to be talking about something that is very recent to both of us, a little bit more recent to her than to me, but it's just this idea of going pro. You know, you've been freelancing for a while. You've been working super hard at developing your skills, your passion, your ability. And then all of a sudden you make that turn and you go 100% pro. So Bethany, thanks so much for doing a DAC talk with me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is super fun.
Yeah, it will be a lot of fun, and it only gets better from here. Trust me, I've done 12 of these so far, so I promise you it only gets better from here. So really quickly, would you just share a little bit of your entrepreneur story and just kind of give people an idea of who you are and kind of the angle that you're coming from our conversation today?
Yes. So after we got married, I became a stay-at-home mom, and
Not
I did a
you and
lot
me.
of... No, not us. After I married my amazing husband, I became a stay-at-home mom and was really looking for what I was supposed to do. I didn't feel like, I knew I wanted to be home, but I wasn't fulfilling my purpose almost. There was something missing. And I know you feel that when you're an entrepreneur, that something's not there.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of direct sales. Don't regret any of it. I learned so much about how to connect with people and serving others, and it was great because we were in ministry, and my husband was a youth minister for 10 years. So one day, after lots of years of cajoling, my mom and my husband teamed up, and I went to a writer's conference. That God sort of like had everything come to that center time. I was brand new, had a baby blog for maybe 3 months, but I've been working with teenage girls for 15 years, almost, college-age girls. And long story really short, I walked away from that conference with an agent and a publishing deal that we signed 3 months later, and won Writer of the Year. It was almost just like a Cinderella story that happened, and like life took off. So, but there's so much information out there for writers. It's like when I was getting started, it was hard to figure out like who do you follow and what do I need to do. Yeah. And so 5 months ago was when I went pro. So I've been freelancing, writing and editing and writing my own books and stuff, and I still do collaborative writing with my agency. But I knew that if we could get one place, like an online writers conference for people who can't actually get there, that was my dream. And so that's when I started the Serious Writer program, just launched a planner for entrepreneurs, and just things sort of took off from there. So that's my goal, is to help writers weed through everything, get their proposals done, get an agent, get traditionally published if they want to. That's the story in a nutshell.
Very cool. And so for those of you who don't know my story, there are elements that really resonate and echo what Bethany just shared. But for me, I had been working in the church. I was a full-time communications director for a church, handling all the communications and marketing, which you hear the word church and you think, how legit is it? Well, not really legit in a lot of churches, but I really had a passion for it, and I wanted to make it legit in our church. And so I just learned as much as I could. And I basically spent 6 years learning on the church's dime and freelancing on the side. And so every year I would gain a little bit more business doing a website on the side, or a little bit of consulting, or some social media, or some graphic design. And it just built up over the year to where last July, I was unexpectedly let go from my job. And it kind of was just like a big, and I didn't know what to do. I wasn't planning on that. I wasn't counting on that. There was, like you say, Bethany, like there was this idea inside of me. And I was like, man, I'd really like to do my own thing. But I was completely happy where I was until they said, we don't want you here anymore. And so basically from there, my wife and I, we talked and made the decision that, hey, I've been working super hard, gaining side business. I've kind of done the small business thing in a freelance style. why don't we just go ahead and make a go at this? And so July of last year, we decided that we were going to actually launch a business, that we were going to give it a go and see after a year how things were looking. So we sold our house, we sold our kids. No, I'm just kidding. We didn't sell our kids. We sold our house, we moved in with my parents, and I just kind of started hitting the pavement. So I went pro almost a year ago. And right here, Bethany, do you see this right here? Do you know what this is?
Hey, I love Apple.
Yeah, this is my anniversary present from my wife. We like combined like 4 things into one. We combined Father's Day, we combined our wedding anniversary, we combined my birthday, and we combined 1 year of doing our own business into one present right here. And I love the present. So that's a little bit of my story. And so I've been at it for about a year. Bethany, when did you say you actually went pro?
Well, I consider it pro when I actually started the LLC. So that was in March when I went ahead and just filed my business name. So that
was a big moment, wasn't it?
It was huge.
Yeah.
It was big. Yeah.
Now tell me if you resonate with this. I found that it's a lot of little things. When you make that transition from going pro, it's a lot of little things that it's just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm doing this. It's filing for the LLC. It's going and opening up that bank account. It's, registering that GoDaddy domain. Were there other little things that just kind of, as you made that transition, kind of set you in that pattern? It was like, oh my gosh, and it started to set in a little bit more?
The tax ID number or the EIN, like trying to figure out all, like taxes are different now. And one thing, like I just started this planner, so it's my first physical product, and now I'm looking into how do I do sales tax. I've learned what a nexus is. Like, so I'm in Florida, so Florida is my nexus. Like I need to hire someone to do this stuff for me. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot.
I love how you said that you downsized and moved in with your parents, because my husband, we left the ministry as well, and now we downsized to an apartment. And I feel like, is this what we do? Like we go down so that we can like regroup and rebuild. And then you just moved into a house, and I told you, I was like, I can't wait until I can, text you, be like, we're moving out.
Yeah. It kind of shapes the entire perspective. And I think what you're bringing up here leads me into one of the first things that I wanted to talk about, because we're talking about this idea. And by the way, if you're watching and you want to interact with us, you see this hashtag right here? Yeah, this is the hashtag that we're using on Twitter. I have TweetDeck open up right now, right here on my screen, like I'm pointing to it, and I can see any questions that come in on Twitter using the hashtag DACTalk. So if you want to ask us a question, if you want to interact with us, if you want to share a piece of your story and get one of us to weigh in on it, feel free to interact with us on Twitter. Either which way, we're just going to keep going. And it really leads me into the first topic that I kind of wanted to bring up in this conversation of your first 90 days after you go pro. And it's this first thing of sacrifice. I think often we look at what we see other people doing. Like some people may look at what I'm doing or what you're doing, and they don't know the backstory, right? They don't understand the sacrifices that we've already made. They don't understand all of the work that we've already done, all of the things that we've already built, and all they see is just this rosy on the outside. I was just doing a Periscope broadcast earlier today, which is how you and I met, and I had like 3 people say, hey, I want to work with you. Well, that's all that a lot of people see is, hey, I want to work with you. So it just looks like, oh man, Dave's getting all this business. When it's like, yeah, there's stretches where I get a lot of business coming through. Does that business always translate into really good income? Not always. Do those interests always translate into clients? Not really all the time. There's a lot of sacrifice that's happening on the back end. And as you turn pro, as you make that decision to where I'm going to really go after this, you have to understand that sacrifices are going to come. And what type of sacrifices am I talking about? It's different for everybody. But let me just tell you, it's sacrifices like this: selling your house and moving in with your parents when you have a wife and 2 kids. It's moving out of a house and moving into an apartment. It's not going out every single Friday and drinking at the bar. It's spending Saturday nights in brainstorming and trying to gin up business when the phones and the text messaging and the emails are not ringing, or they're not coming in. It is, it's saying no to going on a vacation when your 4 best friends from high school are going on a vacation, but you have to stay and work hard and keep that money that you save so hard for to pay bills because you're trying to launch a business. Sacrifice is the biggest thing that you need to get inside of here, and that needs to make its way down inside of here, because it will all pay off in the end, one way or another. What type of sacrifices would you say people need to kind of be on the lookout for when it comes to their first 90 days of launching into this pro attitude?
Well, I think coming from a female perspective, my husband has an entrepreneurial spirit, but he's working a 9 to 5. So, I'm the entrepreneur in the family. So for the women out there who are wanting to start their businesses, when you have kids, it's, just being a stay-at-home mom is hard. Working from home is hard. But when you're starting a business, you are taking on so much. So I think just letting your kids know, like, mommy's doing this, so I don't have to go to another job, and I get to be here in color, and always saying those positive words to them. Yeah. I heard you say something last night. It was exactly what we say in our house too. Children will guilt you. They will try to guilt you when they get to a certain age, or when they don't want to go to bed. That's when they think of wonderful things to say to you. And my 7-year-old was like, "Why don't you? You didn't color with me today," and he's just trying to get out of going to bed. But it hits you, and that's what they want. So we say this same thing, why does mommy work? Why is mommy doing these things? So that they understand. It's teaching them a good work ethic. But I think, exactly what you said, like date nights are now like going to get the mail, going to Target. Errands become date nights for us. And then I think you have to sacrifice people not understanding why you can't meet them for coffee, or why you can't go to the pool on the weekend, because you are your sole person sometimes running this business. And people don't always understand the mindset of an entrepreneur, and I didn't really understand it until I jumped in, and it's a different ballgame almost. But no, it's only for a time. Like if you're feeling stressed and overworked and sleep, like you're not going to sleep much. It's a lot of late nights, but it will come to a point where you can level out. And Dave, you've grown a team now. So I mean, that was one of the things that I'm excited to talk to you about too, is getting to that point where you're able to, some of the stuff can get off of your plate and you get to breathe a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I have that written down, talking about teamwork and subcontracting and partnering and trading and things like that. I have that written down to get to because that stuff is super important. So I'm a little bit curious. I actually meant to ask this before we moved on, and you might have mentioned it already, and it just didn't click with me. What was the thing that finally just pushed you to say, this is what we're doing? Like, what was that last straw that said, this is what we're doing, and you made that jump?
It was sheer necessity for us. So Justin's degree is in Bible ministry, and when we left the church, he's very good at technical support and networking. He's amazing, but he doesn't have the required certifications and things. So he's starting over at entry-level positions. That's not enough money for our family. And we're still waiting on the military schools to open up. And so, we just, we're Christians, and I said, I hope God's not waiting on me to be the reason why we haven't moved on. I don't want to be the stopping block. But I was, because I think I needed to start this business, and I would not have had we moved on. And so it became, if I don't start this business by this date, we're not going to pay rent.
Yeah.
And so, you can do a lot when that's a motivator.
That's really, really true.
It's amazing how fast you move.
Yeah. So Emily Carlton just sent in a message on Twitter, and Emily says, I get bogged down by details, filing LLC, taxes. Mm-hmm. Is there anything you learned that you wish you knew earlier? Is it okay if I take this one, Bethany? Because yes, you can contribute too. But Emily, the big thing for me, I tried to do my bookkeeping and numbers and receipts and things like that. That's the big thing that just bogs me down. And one of the things that I learned quickly, and Emily, I know we know each other, and you've probably heard me say this, but I really, really focused in on what are the things that only I can do. Mm-hmm. And the bookkeeping is something that I was able to hire out. Now you might be thinking, well, I don't have a whole lot of money. Well, you have to do the entrepreneur math. And this is something that I'm really big on. Entrepreneur math is not normal math. Entrepreneur math is weighing what it costs you now versus what it costs you a week or a month or a year from now. And for me, I looked at it and I said, you know what? If it takes me 2 hours a week to do this bookkeeping, that's 8 hours a month, right? That's 40 hours a year. That's a week of my life that I could be doing on vacation, right? Like I could take that week and go on vacation. I could pay someone X amount of dollars a month to take care of this bookkeeping. So one, either I can go on vacation, or two, I can use that to generate more money than what I'm paying for that person. Now, here's the deal. I was going to pay someone. She wound up saying, look, you do this website for me, I'll do your books. It worked out. So that's the other thing. Find somebody who you can trade with, or find somebody who you can sit down and take to coffee, somebody who can walk you through these things and make it a whole lot easier, or just straight up take it off your plate. But the big thing is weighing the cost. So yes, that $200 a month or that $50 a month might be a lot to pay somebody to do something, but just think of how much it's going to cost you 6 months from now if you don't have them do it, and the joy that it's going to steal from you if you have to continue doing it. The one thing that I hate doing right now that I have to do is writing checks for my team. I hate doing that. I have to live with that right now because it's so small that it's like, look, this is just where I'm at. But eventually, as soon as I can, I'm going to offload that as well. So Bethany, is there any recommendation or any thought you have as far as that goes?
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. I think finding a few online things that can help you. 17 Hats. I talked about that in one of my Periscopes. I've enjoyed that because it takes care of some of the it's a time on the back end getting it set up, but it does your invoices and client stuff for you. Booking appointments, that's something that I pay a small monthly fee for because I do consulting based, so they can just go on and click. Acuity is the one that I'm using now, and I really like it. So investing small dollars there, so I'm not constantly emailing back and forth with people to get on my calendar. That saves a lot of time. So.
Cool. I'm sending a tweet out right now with a link to the 17 Hats. I've actually looked at that in the past, and I'm going to relook at it because you mentioned it here. One of the things that I really have noticed is it's very easy for me to get distracted. A lot of us who are entrepreneur types, and I'm not saying everyone, I don't want to paint everyone. Maybe it's just because it's my personality. I gravitate towards like personality, but it's really easy to lose focus because there's so many different things that either one, we know we need to do, or two, we really enjoy doing, and we might not necessarily need to do it, but it's a lot of fun for us. And so it's really easy to lose focus and to kind of become distracted. So what has been the most important thing for you to focus on in making this transition, in making this jump during these first 90 days? What's been the most central thing for you to focus on so that you don't get distracted and get away from your big purpose, which is putting food on the table?
Yeah, there's so much. I think one of the things I've been focusing on, it's kind of like I said, doing what only I can do, and so my husband's been really great about that. So like housework and things, he really jumps in and helps out with that kind of thing. I try not to let the pressure of being the mom of the house take me away from the business side, because it's so many hours doing the business. I've seen that's been a real struggle, wanting to make sure I'm doing everything. But I mean, somebody else can do the dishes and somebody else can vacuum the floor. It doesn't have to be me. So that's something I've found. And then one thing that I've focused on a lot is I started using Infusionsoft, and I was probably really early to the game getting in with them, but finding something that would handle my customers, my CRM, so that I don't lose anybody as I'm building it, that was really important to me. And so trying to learn everything I can and then connecting with other people. There was a lot. That was I know it was pretty vague, but there was a lot to that question.
No, I think that's helpful. The one thing that I heard, and this was way before I even thought about launching my own business, but it stuck with me. And the one thing I heard that's really given me a lot of perspective, and that has kind of served as, like baseball has foul poles, so you know where the infield is. And there's out of bounds. There's, out of bounds lines in football and basketball, so you kind of know where to stay and play. This kind of served as those foul poles or those boundaries for me, and it was don't do anything, or don't spend your money on anything that isn't going to generate money. And I kind of expanded on that, and I said, I'm not going to spend my time on anything that isn't going to generate money for me. And it might not generate money right away, right? Again, it's that idea of entrepreneur math, but it's looking at it and is like, is this something that I just enjoy doing, but it's not actually improving my bottom dollar? Or is this necessary in order for me to generate money now, or in order for me to generate money in the future? And when I put everything through that filter and I focus on generating income as the primary thing, it makes it a whole lot easier for me to actually say yes or no. This is something that I should or should not be focusing on. So I think
Mhm.
that's been the biggest takeaway for me as far as what do you remain focused on? Remain focused on the things that are going to generate income for you, because as you generate income, it will bring you more freedom. It will provide more options, and it will allow you to get into things like expanding and adding a team
Mhm.
and being ready to go on vacation and having people in the wings and being able to pay for tools that free you up, like Infusionsoft.
Yeah.
Something that you said that I thought about when you said Infusionsoft, there are moments that, and this is a little bit off topic, but there have been moments for me where I've made big purchases, and those were defining moments for me as to like, I'm investing in myself. Like, I've got to make this work because I just dumped $2,000 into this. I've got to
Right.
make this work because I'm spending $50 a month on this. And so that's another thing that helps me kind of stay focused, is like, I got to pay for all this stuff. So I have to make sure that I'm generating income. Any other thoughts on that, or you want to keep moving on here?
No, I think that's good. The guilt thing has been really big for me, is just not feeling guilty. And someone had a comment on it was Emily Carlton. She had one on there about losing friends and stuff. So I didn't know if that was something you wanted to talk about now, or if we had that coming up.
Yeah, go for it. I was going to direct that one to you, so go for it.
Okay, well, Emily said, did you lose friends pursuing freelance? How do you communicate reasons to friends why you don't do or attend X? Okay, so there's a book by Shauna Nyquist, I think is how you say her name. It's called Bittersweet. I haven't finished it yet, but I've been told by several people to read it. And she has something called the don't do list. And she gave herself permission to not do certain things. And so I made one too. And I suggest do that and sit down with your family or whoever's, doing life with you. And I don't do certain things. And one of the things on my list is I don't go to coffee with people. And it's because people ask me all the time, like, can we meet for coffee? Can I pick your brain? But instead, I would rather do like a Skype or a Google Hangout, because I can still be home, I can still have my kids here, and it's not taking the drive time, to get ready time, the sit down time. It's a better use of time to be online face to face instead of in person. And a lot of people don't understand that, but that's life right now. So I probably haven't lost friends. They're still my friends, but the deeper connections have probably been put on hold. But I think that gets replaced with connections like I would have met Dave, and I've met so many people on this journey now who are becoming super close friends and blessings in my life right now. So I don't see it as a negative. I just see it as what happens in my instance.
I think you also have to look at it as redefining what the word friendship really means, at least in your current season of life. And the thing is people are cool. Like, all your friends, like, they're cool. But the reality is, and if you've probably experienced this to some degree or another, unless you've stayed in your hometown your whole life, and as a small hometown, is distance just happens, and you grow apart from different people. And while you do have some relationships that'll probably stay long term, for the most part, your definition of friendship changes as you grow. And so what I've found is that some people who were friends in the past, they were friends based upon my previous definition of what friendship was and the needs in my life, the value that they brought, the value that I brought, the needs that they had. And as those have changed over time, my definition of friendship has changed over time. Now, I've got 2 or 3 people who, no matter what, they're always there. But I've established new friendships that basically have come alongside with me where I'm at in life now. Mm-hmm. And I've leaned on those friendships. Fortunately, unfortunately, whatever, they're mostly online. But the cool thing, and I was talking about this, I think last night in our Periscope crawl that we do, or that you do, that I was a guest on, I need people who understand what I'm going through, because the reality is a lot of people in my life, they don't understand when I say I can't do something.
Yes.
Or they don't understand why I don't go out after 7 o'clock. Mm-hmm. They don't understand, why it's hard for us to do stuff on weekdays. Like, they just don't get it. But my friends who are entrepreneurs, they understand, they get it. And so it just changes over time. And the thing is I just have learned to believe that people are cool, people are awesome, but things just change. And that's kind of helped me kind of adapt to that. Let's see here. I want to get to the teamwork thing, but I want to get that a little bit down. So Jim Bob, we are going to get to that. And Amy, we are going to get to that as well. The one thing that I want to hit is, Bethany, what are some of the biggest distractions you've encountered? We talked about what do you stay focused on.
Yeah.
let's look at it from the other perspective of what are the things to kind of look out for? What are the things that are easy to get distracted on, easy to get hung up on, and keep you from producing forward momentum?
I think when you're starting out, I found it hard to stop the freelancing for very little pay and starting to charge. And that is, you're jumping ship from people. You know, they know that you're going to, you know, in the beginning, I did a lot of stuff for free, a lot of stuff for very low pay as I was building a portfolio and I was getting experience. And when you're jumping and saying, okay, now these are my prices, sometimes people, you know, you make it out to be more of a thing than they do, I think, in your mind. Like, you know, what are they going to think about me and all that kind of thing. So not letting these worries, I think they can be a big distraction. Facebook could be a distraction. I use a lot for networking. It's almost like a second email for me, but I can spend way too much time on there. Having kids at home, for those of you who have little ones in the house, like, that's a big distraction. It's a good distraction. You know, I'm glad that they get to see the working, but you know, I'm surprised that I don't have kids, you know, knocking on the door right now. So trying to train them to be patient. But you can look at it, you know, as positive things too. Like if mommy's on the phone, you're going to practice patience, and you get to sit down and watch a movie or something. So, and I think not taking on too small of projects while you're getting stuff done. Like you get to a point, Dave, and you may have found this too, where you're getting started until all these projects come in, and you're like, yay, I'm finally doing something. And then you come to a point where, like, okay, I have to actually work on all these projects now and get them done so that I can take on more projects. Like, you get to that point. So I think it could be hard to know that line where you need to stop and actually finish stuff before you take on something else.
Yeah.
It can be hard.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's actually one of my deals. Is it's easy for me to get projects in. I'm a really good talker, and I'm not two-faced. What I say is who I really am, and who I really am is what I say, and I mean it. But once the projects come in, it's hard for me to get kickstarted on it because my brain is somewhere else. And I've got two parts to my business. I have the Shrein media side, which is the firm, which is the media and web and marketing firm. And then I have the other side, which is kind of the brand and the like the personal brand and the motivational speaking and the entrepreneur encouragement, things like that. And so I have two sides. The brand side is the one that eventually I want to lean into more, but the Shrein media side is the one that produces all of the cash, right? Yeah. And so I have to be very intentional about not getting distracted by the fun brand side and staying focused on the side that's actually producing income, because it is producing income. It took me 5 months to produce the income that I lost from my first full-time job. Now that's because I had a whole bunch of clients that I'd built up over time and a lot of networking. My business was started before I ever knew my business started, right?
Yeah.
It took me 5 months, but the business is going really well. So I've got to make sure to not get distracted. Another thing that I think really distracts a lot of people, and I think this is going to hit home, and I want you guys to listen to this right now. You've got to hear this. One of the biggest distractions that you will ever encounter is the idea of perfection. Perfection will distract you, discourage you, and beat you down because you've got this idea inside of your head of what it should look like. And it prevents you from shipping. It prevents you from posting. It prevents you from launching. It prevents you from writing. It prevents you from talking. It prevents you from leading. It distracts you from actually accomplishing things because you think that perfection is what's needed, when in reality, what's needed is you just got to do it. You just got to launch it. You just got to start it. And over the course of time, you'll be able to improve upon those things. But if you are distracted by the idea of perfection, you will be slowed down to the point of your feet stuck in concrete, in cement that's dried. And that's a very dangerous place to be. Would you agree, Bethany?
Absolutely. Beta is my new favorite word.
Why is that?
I think people give you some grace when you're going beta, like you're saying, okay, I've got this, I'm going to give it to you. It's not there yet. And yeah, I like my planner is in beta. You know, but you can give a lot of value in beta. Actually, the Serious Writer program's in beta right now because I'm not ready to move on with, you know, I'm still generating so much content that needs to get on there. But, you know, people jump in with you early and you get to really love on them and give them some awesome things that, you know, other people aren't going to get. So I'm really enjoying beta time a lot more than I thought I would. I thought I was going to try to rush out of it, but it gives you time to create, I think. I understand what you're saying about the distraction for me is that, like, I have all these quotes that I want to get onto images, to get onto Pinterest. I've got all these things for my BethanyJett.com, which is dating and relationships. That's how I got started, was that book, and I still speak for that. But that has been put on hold for the last year while I'm building Serious Writer, because that's where the money is, and that's how I can personally help people. So there's a lot of fun stuff I wish I was doing, but, you know, you have to pick. Like, time spent in one area is time lost in another, and so you have to choose.
Yeah.
And that's what you, like, you know, if someone's like, can we meet for coffee? And, like, I love that person, but that hour I could spend with my kids, because I haven't seen them except, you know, while I'm at the computer. So but it's only for a time. It's just for a time. Right, if you need to hear that, it is just for a time. Yeah. It could be a long time. But
my wife and I, we use the word season. We say this is just a season. And that's how that went. Living with my parents, it was a long season, but it was a season. One of the things that you were talking about, you know, sitting, having coffee with someone, one of the things I really had to get over, and I think this was just a personality flaw that I had going on with me, and I had to mentally get over it, because people are valuable, and you got to show people respect with your time, your attention. But it was really tough for me, because when I would be meeting with a client and they would just kind of want to start shooting the breeze, what they were communicating to me is, we like you. We want to engage with you. We want to get to know you more. What was happening in my brain is, do you understand how far you're putting me behind today? Do you understand how much this is costing me? And it was really, really difficult for me to sit there and focus on where I was and listening and respecting the person, when inside of me, all I could think of is, I've got so much work that I have to do. And it was just a mental balance that I had to get over. But that was a really, really big challenge, to try to figure out how to coexist with the reality of the demands of my time. But at the same time, I'm still a person, and so are they. And I've got to respect them. So I think that's a really good point. So another question that I want to have, you've got things that you focus on, things that distract you. Here's another big one: motivation. And I know for me, I get asked a lot, how do you stay motivated? I'm a naturally peppy guy. I have a really positive outlook. What you see right now, like my energy, that's the energy that I have at 6 a.m. in the morning, at 7 a.m. in the morning. That's just who I am. I do struggle with depression because I have such extreme highs. I also have lows. So I take an antidepressant to make sure to balance me out, so I can be more of who I am, be a better version of myself than I would be otherwise. But motivation, that's been a huge one for me. And so we've talked about the motivation of, you got to put food on the table. Okay. Yes, that's a given, but that doesn't often get you through day in and day out. That gets you through the big moments of, why am I doing this? I'm so exhausted. That gets you through those monumental moments. The motivation, though, I find I become motivated by two things. The first is by focusing on and making sure to take on projects that give me energy. Okay. Yeah. You can take on projects that's why, Bethany, you and I are doing a little bit of work. You're doing some stuff for me right now. Yeah. That's why I was so insistent upon hearing you answer when I was asking you'll remember I asked you, is this a win for you? Do you enjoy doing this? Does this motivate you? Does this bring you joy? And the reason why is because I know I'm going to get my best product when I'm motivated, when I'm excited, when I'm joyful about doing something. If I'm doing something, if I take on a project that steals joy from me, I'm not motivated. So the first and foremost is fill up your schedule, fill up my schedule, fill up your schedule with the things that excite you the most, because you will be motivated to do them. If it's things that you hate, you won't be motivated to do it. What are some ways that you stay motivated?
That's actually the thing that I wrote down, was doing what I love. So, you know, the last 3 months is really when things have been pushing really hard, but I love it. I'm so excited. Like Monday, I love Mondays because I get to, you know, be back in my home office, and then, you know, even Fridays, I'm never like, you know, TGIF. I don't really ever think that anymore. It's look what I get to do today, because I love to write and I love to edit, and like some of the projects that we're working on, you know, it's what I was supposed to do. And I think when you find the thing that you were born to do or created to do, or if you believe that God gave you the purpose, it took me a long time to figure this out. I went through a very hard time, like 8 years, I think, begging God to show me what I was supposed to be doing. And at the time, I was supposed to be raising little boys. We've got 3 sons. And then at the perfect time, that perfect storm at that writers conference, God said, you're ready. But I had to learn so much in direct sales about people. I had so much learning to do that I wouldn't have been ready if I hadn't gone through that first. But now it's a blessing to do what I do. And now speaking at conferences and things, like this whole world has opened up, and I'm just feeling so excited to be part of it that I just want to keep going so I can keep, I don't know, like it doesn't ever turn off. I'm never hating it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, I just love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as you go over time, you might take a job on that you like right now, but eventually you'll find, I don't really like that anymore. And that leans into the idea of growing a team. And we're almost there. I want to get to that, but there's a couple more things. We got a couple questions that came in here. Amy asked, keeping up with Amy, asks, my distraction is marketing. How do you successfully market without sounding like you're pushing your product on people? Do you have any thoughts on that, Bethany, off the top of your head?
Value has been my buzzword for a while. That's the first thing that came into my head. What I hear mostly with my clients and with writers is they do the opposite. They don't self-promote because I hear a lot, I'm doing this for God, I'm not really doing it for money, or, like, I feel like God wants me to do this. And that's great, and I think a lot of us who are Christians feel that same way. So what you have to do is you have to sort of like, okay, you're doing your purpose for whatever reason you're doing purpose, but then you have to put on the business hat, and you can't be having like a lot of emotion on when you're making those financial decisions for your business or when you're promoting. So I just think if I was hiring a promoter, what would I want them to say about me? And then I write it, and then I pretend that they're submitting it. That's what I did in the beginning. It doesn't bother me anymore to promote. You sort of like transition through this roller coaster of emotion with that. But in the beginning, it's hard to self-promote. You feel like you're bragging, and you're not. You're sharing what you do with people, how you can help them. And if you always come at it from an act of service, which is what I love about what I learned in direct sales, is you're coming at it like, how can I help you? They're not seeing you as, hire me because I want to make money off of you. They're saying, oh, you can really help me with this, and always giving them that value is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just tack on to that. One of the things that I say a lot is you need to be honest about what you do and the value you bring, rather than being modest about, what it is you do. And because the truth is your modesty doesn't help anyone. Your honesty about your skills is what helps people. I was meeting with one of my family members who I'm actually going to be doing a site for. She was just asking me what I do because my extended family has no idea what it is that I do for a living. I think my wife kind of has an idea now, but the extended family, it's going to take years. So we were sitting down. I was in Kentucky. That's where all my family's from. And we were just kind of catching up. And she goes, now, what is it that you do? And so I started explaining, and I said, I help people manage their brands, and I help them take their website and make it so it's easier for people to find them and to hire them and things like that. And she goes, well, now I do public speaking, and I get hired, for this many dates a year, and I have a little website. I just don't like the idea of marketing. And I looked back, I said, look, you just got to understand, all marketing is helping the people who need what you have to offer more than anything else, helping them find you so that you can come alongside and give them what it is you do. Helping the people who you can help find you. And she goes, well, when you put it like that, I guess it doesn't sound so bad. And that's the truth. That's the truth. I know. And so it's a mental game too, Amy, I think. I know that I can help people. Right now, I know that I could launch a conversation with somebody like on DAC Talk, and I can add value to somebody's life. Now, here's the deal. My marketing strategy is I'll say something along the lines, I'll say something like this. What you need is you need somebody who can come in and help extract all of the things from you that you do so well and translate those into value propositions on your website. You don't want to sound braggy on your website. What you want is you want people to be reading your site, nodding their head saying, yes, this is exactly what I need. And what I do is I come alongside people and I help them do just that. So I didn't just market myself there. You need to hire me. You need to give me money in order to help make your website shine. I didn't do that. What I said is what I love to do is come alongside people and help them get paired up with their ideal clients. And we do that through copywriting. So do you see the difference there, Amy? Do you see the difference between selling yourself as just this is who I am and what I love doing versus you can give me some money and I'll write copy for you. Like there's a
Right.
clear difference. And if you're doing what you love, it becomes so much more natural. Any other thoughts on that, or do you want to keep moving here, Bethany?
I had one quick one. I see it a lot on
Do it.
Facebook when someone has a question about something, and a lot of people will chime in like, oh, P, personal message me because I do this. I see that a lot. But I think the more successful people get on there, they actually give them advice. They'll say, hey, why don't you check this out or do this, and they add value to the conversation. And those are the people I'm looking for. If I have the same question or want to know something, because obviously they know something about it, and they're not trying to move the conversation off board. And they're not, no one's being sneaky when they're saying that. They're being legit. Like, I can help you. Message me personally. That's fine. But I think that you do yourself a disservice because then no one else can hear what you're saying. Someone else probably would want to hire you too.
Yep, absolutely. So the next thing that you know what? DJ Sean J had a question. Going back to this idea of perfection, do you give yourself benchmarks of completion to avoid that perfection hang up, or do you just call a task good enough? So I'll answer that first, and then Bethany, chime in if you have any thoughts. So for me, I've realized I'm really good at understanding people. Within like 2 or 3 minutes of talking with somebody face to face, I have a really good understanding of who they are. Now, they continue to shape that, but I feel like I'm able to discern a good foundation. And one of the things that I've learned when it comes to understanding people is that their perception is going to be much different. Their perception of my work is going to be much different of my perception of my work, okay? So I look at it from all the things that I know, and did I get it all into this funnel? So I have this entire reservoir to pull from of what the project should look like, and I'm trying to channel it, whereas they're getting just what I serve to them. They don't see everything here, right? Like, they don't see everything that I have in this reservoir. All they see is what I deliver, okay? And so I can't compare their perception of my work with my perception of my work, because it's not a level playing field, right? They have no idea. And this is actually, I'm okay admitting this because everybody does it, but this is one of my tactics when I need to deliver something to a client, but I haven't really done everything that I need to do, is I will deliver just a snapshot that might have taken me only 10 minutes to produce, but they don't know how long it took me to produce. All they see is momentum going. So you have to understand that when you are putting something out there for other people to see, they don't know the whole story. All they know is what you're giving them. So make sure what you're giving them makes sense, that it's quality, but don't feel like it has to be comprehensive, okay? If you're charging money, you got to make sure it's a good value. You can get people to give you feedback on that. But you have to remember, when it comes to the perfection game, it's perfection that you're competing with in here, not perfection out there, if that makes sense. Anything to contribute there, Bethany? Anything to add?
I like to put in what I call the wow factor. So the planners, is a new product that I'm launching in beta. Of course, it's called beta. But I think, it's the small things that matter that can make something perfect for someone. So I bought like a really thick paper. It feels amazing to the touch. And so I know when people get this in their hands in the next few days when it ships, they're going to open it, and it's just that small thing. And they're like, this planner is amazing. And it was just spending a few extra dollars on a quality paper. When my book got published, they sent it to me, and the marketing team at the publishing house said, wait till you feel it. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? The cover that they chose is beautiful, but it's buttery to the touch. And so you pick up my book in a bookstore, and you have this experience with it because it feels so amazing in your hand. And so you've created this like wow factor. So I always try to find like 1 or 2 things that creates a little bit of wow, because then the project doesn't have to be like perfect, because they feel like you've really done something amazing for them. So that helps me sort of balance the perfection versus I'm giving them something amazing. It's what they want plus a little extra, if that helps.
Yep, absolutely. I love that. So let's start leaning into this idea of teamwork with our last 10, 15 minutes here. This idea of teamwork, expanding your team. And I don't want to say it's just hiring people to work as an employee, but I really want to open it up to this conversation of multiple prongs. First and foremost, it can be people that you hire to work as an employee. It can be finding capable freelancers or capable entrepreneurs who you hire a company to do, right? It can also be paying for significantly priced services in order to accomplish something that you need done. So this whole idea of team, I don't want to limit it to just when you actually physically hire somebody that walks in the door and comes and clocks in and clocks out. I don't want to limit it to that, because when we limit it to that, we really limit our ability to expand our productivity. So I want to leave it open then. But I know that this is something that I've really leaned into for the past 8 months, I think, and it's something that I've experienced success with. So I can talk about it. But Bethany, I don't know where you're at in this process of teamwork, but are there any questions? Are there anything that you've learned about this? Any outsourcing that you've done, or any questions, that you might be posing that other people might be asking?
When I got started, I was looking for online resources. Like you said, it wasn't actual physical people. It was products and services that took the place of people, which sounds bad, but I have found great value with Infusionsoft and Lead Pages, and now 17 Hacks. Those are 3 things that I've, in there. I feel like I have a partnership with those companies to where things are getting done that I don't necessarily have to hire someone right now for. But we're just now branching out in the serious writer business with physical people. So my sister is amazing at images and branding, and so I just brought her on board as a creative consultant. She's revolutionized my blog in a day. She's amazing. So she's going to be helping a lot of people on my team. So my question is then, what are the products that you have seen that you're not able to get through Infusionsoft or from Lead Pages or your accountant? I've got an accountant, but what are the other things that you say, okay, I really need someone to help me do this? What are those things that I'm not thinking of, I guess, is my question.
Can you ask the same question and just word it a different way?
What are some of the jobs or people's titles on your team that you recommend for people who are getting started?
Awesome. Okay, so one of the big things that I've found is I am a content factory. Bethany, you are a content factory. We are all content factories, especially when it comes to the amount of social media that we pump out, especially when it comes to looking at the history of things that we've done online, especially when it comes to our artwork that we've produced over the years. We are content factories. The problem is, it's twofold. The first side of the problem is that we're so close to our own realities that we fail to see the value that we bring in and of ourselves every single day, right? One example that I have is, everything that I do is fascinating to a certain person. And it might not be everything is fascinating to one person, but it might be this aspect is fascinating to that person, while this aspect is fascinating to that person. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of stuff that I do. If I say, would you guys be interested in seeing what my office space looks like? There's going to be somebody who's like, yeah, I would love to see that. Yeah. That's content right there. We are content factories. One of the big things that I think we would do well to look at is partnering with somebody, bringing someone alongside of us who can help us maximize the marketing materials that we're just naturally creating via tweets, via Periscope videos, via blogs, via DAC talks. So what happens is, one of the first hires that I made was somebody part-time to go back and watch all of the videos that I do and pull tweets out of them. Yes. And so what happens is, after this video, Bethany, I'm going to send this video to Jordan, and I'm going to say, Jordan, I need you to watch this video. I need you to pull 20 tweets out. Here's what they need to be focused on, and I need you to put them in this Google Doc. And then what happens after he does that is that document, he could either do this, but I actually have somebody else doing it. That document goes to another person on my team who then takes all those tweets and they upload those tweets into a system called Meet Edgar, or called Edgar. And Edgar is a social media scheduler that allows, it's really kind of hard to explain, but let's just say you want to continue to use your tweets over and over and over again. You can create categories. So I'll have a category for entrepreneur, a category for Periscope, a category for other people's tweets, and you load those up with tweets that you want to use over and over and over again. If you say tweet out, draw something from the Periscope category once a week at this time, if you have 5 items in that category, 5 tweets already written in that category, in 5 weeks, you will have exhausted all 5 of those. And on week 6, it'll go back to the first one. So all of the quotes that come out of this DAC talk go to Edgar. And then Edgar starts pushing them out. And then what happens is that generates traffic back to the DAC Talk website. So one of the first hires I made was a data extraction expert. One of the second hires that I made was somebody to manage my clients on the everyday stuff that happens over and over and over again. The stuff that doesn't need my brain power, but the stuff that is do it once, do it a million times. It's the over and over, the repetitive stuff. And that's really where I look to hire. Now, somebody asked the question, when do you start looking to hire? And that's a really, really good question, because that's the exact question that you want to ask is, when do you start hiring? It's not when you need somebody. You hire in anticipation of needing somebody. Because the problem when you hire when you need somebody is now you no longer have time to adequately train that person. Right? And you're burning the candle at both ends, because you don't have time to train them, but you also need them to do stuff that you don't have time to train them to do. So what you want to do is you want to anticipate, and I look at it as 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You make enough money to say, okay, I need to hire somebody 3 or 4 hours a week. That's 1 step back. You've taken 2 steps forward financially, but now you're getting more and more burned out. So you take a step back financially to pay somebody in order for you to take another 2 steps forward, and then you take 1 step back. So the best time to hire somebody is when you are anticipating the need to have somebody a month from now. So that's when it's time, is when you are anticipating. The best place to look, Twitter. I found lots of stuff on Twitter. Have you found any great places to find people to do little odds and end work for you at all? Have you done that yet, or heard of people who have?
Facebook has been a really good thing for me, and I've got friends in the writing world who will occasionally do small things. But yeah, I'm getting to the point where I need someone like the data extraction expert. I need someone to go back and like pull clips from videos and things. It's not something that I need to be doing. Someone else could do that. Yep. And then do you do, so another question for small business owners in the first 90 days, do you hire as freelance, or do you hire employees? Like, when do you make a transition, or is it better to just have everybody be their own independent contractor and not bring on an employee?
It's different for everybody. And so all I can tell you is what I did. What I wound up doing was I identify, first and foremost, you need to be clear on what it is you want somebody to do. If you're just like, oh, I need somebody to take stuff off my plate, that's going to be frustrating for you. Be very clear on what it is you want somebody to do for you. The clearer you are, the more freedom you will experience. You need to hear me say that. The clearer you are on what you need somebody to help you with, the more freedom you will experience once they've taken that over, okay? So you got to get clear on what you need help in. What I wound up doing was I looked at what it is I said I needed, and I went out and I found somebody to do specifically that thing, okay? I didn't look for somebody to do a jack of all trades. I went out on Twitter and I looked at all of the people who I've connected with over the past 2 or 3 years who I felt like I had some sort of a relationship with, and I said, okay, this person, what I know about them, this will most likely be a win for them. I'm going to approach them. And what I did was I said, it's 3 to 5 hours a week, okay? It can be anytime you want. You have to tell me when you're available so I know when I can give stuff to you and when I have to do it myself. You have to tell me when you're available, but you can do it whenever you want. You will have at least 24 hours notice before it's due. You'll have hopefully 72 hours notice before it's due. We have to be in constant communication, and here's the key. Here's what I'm going to pay you per hour, and at the end of this time, we reevaluate. I gave myself an out, and I gave them an out. Basically, I said, here's what you're going to get paid for the first 6 months, and at the end of those 6 months, we will reevaluate whether or not this is a fit. So there's no hard feelings. There's no hurt feelings. I do them all as contractors, because the fact that they're not on a set schedule, they can do it whenever they want. That technically qualifies for contracting. Now, I have a business philosophy where eventually I want to bring them in and I want to hire them because I want to pay their taxes, because I want to run that type of business that cares for the people who make things, happen for me. But that's just my choice. So that's what I've done. That's how I've kind of gone about it. But really the big takeaway there is, first and foremost, know exactly what you need. And secondly, establish exactly what the expectations are. Does that help? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good, actually. Very good.
Let's see. Jim Bob asked the question, how do you guard against hiring for more than you end up making from offsetting that work? And Jim Bob, I would say from my experience, You just do your best. I've lost money and I've made money. Okay. I just lost $360 on a project that's probably only going to bring in 1,500. You just live and learn, and you make adjustments to your contracts. You make adjustments to your pricing, and you got to be able to have flexibility, and you got to be able to have money in the bank in order to accomplish that. Let's see what other questions have come in. I think that's it. Is that all of the ones? Do you give yours? Yep, I think we've hit all the questions. Bethany, is there anything else that you want to talk about before we're done here? Anything else with that topic of hiring, teamwork, things like that that you want to hit before we sum it up, or any other last minute words of wisdom to somebody in their first 90 days of launching a business?
I think my words of wisdom is something that I heard somebody say a little while ago, and it was, don't be afraid to be the expert on something, because all that means that you know more than the next guy. And so you're constantly learning from an expert who's learning from their expert, and you're always going to be an expert to somebody. So just own the fact that you're an expert to someone, and then become really, really good at what you do. And like, I've really learned this, in talking with you. Like, you can be good at just one or two things, but if you're exceptional at it, that's when you can really grow this business, because you're very, very good at what you do.
Yeah.
And people think so differently. So something that's easy to you is not easy to the next person. Like, I could not do we've said this to each other. I could not do what you do, but I'm good at this. But I would not want to sit in your spot. And
Exactly.
So you find the other people who feel the same way about what they do. They don't want to do what you do, and you just become peers with people and network and have fun with it.
Yeah.
But don't be afraid to be the expert. Don't be afraid to label yourself that.
Absolutely. I that's a great word. I could not agree with you more on that. There's just a mental reality that you've got to adopt, in that you are not presenting your services to another expert in the same exact field. They wouldn't be hiring you if they were an expert at exactly what you do. A good person to work with is going to hire the people that make up for their weaknesses, right? Whether it's a client or whether it's a boss, they're going to hire people who fill in and strengthen the team, not reaffirm their own awesomeness. So you are not teaching or working for an expert. You are teaching or working for a newbie. And that's really, really important to know. The other thing that I would kind of just add to that is, when you look at other experts in your field, don't compare yourself with them, because the reality is, when you who is it? Jeff Field says that when you compare yourself, when you compare what you know to be true about yourself with what you don't know about somebody else, it's an unfair game, and you lose every single time. You just can't win at that, because there's so much you don't see going on behind the scenes, good and bad.
So true.
So the other, and with that, you are a flavor that's going to be different than that other person who you perceive to be incredibly successful. Coke and Dr. Pepper are different. Some people won't touch Dr. Pepper, and some people won't put it down, right? They're two different flavors. And if Coke tries to be Dr. Pepper, it's going to fail every single time. But the second that Coke realizes, you know what, I'm Coke, I'm cool the way that I am, and I'm just going to be the best Coke that I can, that's when Coke wins. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there you go.
John Acuff had an email blast a while ago, and I printed it out on my label maker, because I love label makers, and it's on my computer on my Mac. So I've got two that go down the sides on the black. And it just basically, it says coffee, not vanilla, because vanilla is the people pleaser, and it's the safe choice for parties. But everybody has an opinion about coffee. You love it, you hate it, you drink it in a frappuccino, and you pretend you're a coffee drinker. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I have to remind myself when I'm writing or whatever I'm doing, is I have to have an opinion, and I have to be able to state that opinion, and I have to be coffee. And it's okay if people don't like coffee, because someone else is going to love it and be addicted to it. So that's the flavors. This is hashtag flavor talk.
That's great. That's great. Well, Bethany, this has been awesome. I've loved this conversation. I've loved this topic. It's been such an encouragement. Where can people connect with you? Where would somebody who says, man, that was great, I want to hear more of what she has to say, where would you like to send them?
Twitter is great, at Jett, BETJETT. Also, BethanyJett.com. I'm still active on that site, even though a lot of posts aren't going up right now, and I explained why, during the talk. But yes, I am doing more on there. So definitely Twitter in there, and Facebook as well. But those are probably the two big ones.
Awesome.
Yep.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you've made it to the end of this podcast, so I'm talking to the person watching right now or the people who listen in the future, if you made it to the end of this podcast, you can check out dactalk.net, DACTALK.net for 12 other episodes directly related to this idea of kickstarting your business, what those first 90 days look like after you launch your business. They're from different entrepreneurs, different dreamers, so you'll get a lot of different perspectives. So make sure, go check it out. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes because we will be producing more episodes. And let's face it, when you bring on awesome people to talk about their dreams and the things they love the most, it's going to be pretty awesome to listen back to it. So Bethany, appreciate you. Appreciate your time. Everybody who tuned in, thank you so much.
Yes,
Appreciate everybody who communicated and contributed via Twitter. That was just fantastic. You guys are a great third person here in this group. It was fantastic. And I guess we will see you for the next DAC Talk. See you guys.